All right, hey, it's April 22nd. I'm waiting to the last minute, but this is the night, the Big Bass Eve fishing report. Boy, it's been a busy week. Been all over the place. As you can see, I'm in my brand new VX20 Vexus. The guys down at Sport World worked real hard all week. We got everything together exactly the way we wanted it. I'm gonna go into a lot more detail. I'm actually gonna do a separate video on this boat because it deserves its own video. And actually, along with the guys at Sport World Boat Centers, how we put this together and equipped it. But I know tonight's the Big Bass Eve, so we're going to go over the baits that this week has produced some good solid fish for us, and the baits I really think are going to produce the fish for you guys tomorrow and Sunday. For the bass. As we all know, this is a big fish tournament. This is Big Bass. You're not looking for keepers. You're not looking for numbers. You're looking for big fish. Check casting fish. So that's what we're going to really focus on. And this week, out fishing, that's what we're really focused on. Trying to see what we can do to catch big fish. It's not about numbers, like I said. So, with that being said, we did get some rain this week. So some of the creek arms have dirtied up. It doesn't matter what river, whether it be the Nanguas, Osage, Gravois has still stayed pretty clear because they didn't have quite the rain like the southern and western part of the lake has gotten. The Nanguas has gotten quite a bit. The Glaze has gotten some. The big major rains we had have kind of skirted up the Camdenton side, if you will. We got a little bit up north, but not near that southern side. So those runoffs are a little dirtier, and it stained up some of those creeks. In the very backs of them creeks, it's giving it some good color, which will put a lot of fish shallow and relate to shallow cover, whether it be docks or like big laydowns or either big boulders. They'll just tend to go shallow like that. It's been, last week we had a couple cool days, cool nights, and it brought that water temp down. But yesterday, today, all day, we're talking 80 degrees, really windy. That stirs that water up, that surface water. It warms it up. It puts a lot of oxygen in it. It moves the bait fish. It just gives the most desirable water conditions for these early spring bass, especially these big females. So it's really got a lot of fish moving. I expect you guys tomorrow morning, I'd say for that first 3 or 4 hours, you ought to see a pretty good bite. And actually throughout the day, it's supposed to be windy. Okay, I know windy days can be, aggravating, challenging, but believe me, this time of year, you want that wind, and especially when it's warm like this. It's going to be warm all night. It's been warm all yesterday, all day today, tonight, tomorrow. Warm winds that warms that water up, and that's what these big females have been waiting on, for that water warming to on a good warming trend. We've had a full moon about maybe a week ago. The water temps are creeping up. You're going to see, I'd say water temp on the average, I want to give you 55 to 56. It's a little warmer in some areas. It might be a little less, but for the most part, you're going to see tomorrow morning, first thing with these warm winds and all we've had, you're going to see from 54, 55 to 58 degrees. So we're getting really close to these big females moving up and trying to spawn. Lake level is still maintained 655.15. It hasn't went anywhere this week. The biggest change this week I'm gonna say it's current. You know, they've been pulling a lot of water. You know, 25, 35,000 cubic foot, which is a lot. That's what we see in June down here, and they've been pulling it for the last several weeks. But this last week, at least this week, they've slowed it down. They've ramped it up a little bit, you know, a day or two. But the last couple of days, and then today, it's only been about 5,000 cubic foot. So tomorrow being Saturday, they normally don't ramp it up. They don't pull much on the weekends. So you're going to see a whole lot less current. And what that's going to do is allow these fish to feel comfortable to come off of these points, main lake points, secondary points, even channel banks, and they're going to move. And they're going to move shallow. They're going to come off of these points and they're going to go just around the corners. They're going to start to venture back into some pea gravel stuff, more spawning related stuff. And a lot of these fish will move. Now, with that being said, and these high winds, these fish are going to be relating to wind tomorrow, especially these big females. You know, there are going to be some shallow, but I'm still standing by what I thought last week. I really think your bait of choice tomorrow is going to be a big spinnerbait, a big 3/4 ounce spinnerbait. You know, like this one here, you can see how I've got it rigged. This is that mouse color, a little bit of chartreuse head, a little bit of chartreuse on the tail, a number 5 willow with a Colorado gold on there. That would be my spinnerbait of choice. You know, on a 3/4 tomorrow, the heavy winds, you're going to need something that you can launch this bait and throw into this wind comfortably without backlashing or overrunning your reel. It'll throw a lot better. A 3/4 ounce, if you're fishing main lake points, secondary points, channel banks where you got a little bit of deep water, and you're going to want to just follow that wind all day long. I mean, the heavier the wind, the better. It doesn't matter. Don't let that bother you. Just stay in that wind, you know. And like I said, on bluff end points, secondary points, and channel banks. If you get a channel bank, like in the middle of these creeks or in the back of these creeks, a good steep bank that these fish are staging on and they've been holding up on, and that wind's blowing directly straight in on it, that's going to push bait fish up there. It's going to push the minnows. It's going to push shad. It's going to push oxygen, and that's what these fish are looking for right now. And if you favor those banks with a big spinnerbait tomorrow, and throw that thing up on the bank and just bury your retrieve, work that thing, 2 foot under the surface, just below where you can't see it, and then just gradually work it down to where you're almost crawling, following the contour of a channel bank or a point, bluff ends, and just work it until you see where these fish are suspended. Yesterday we spent some time out, and there was a lot of fish suspended 5 to 8 foot down. You could see them on the graph. They were bass because they were chasing baits. We caught a few on spinnerbaits yesterday. We caught some on crankbaits, and any of these banks, like I'm talking about, any of these baits I'm gonna tell you about will work on these baits. Tomorrow with the wind and the conditions, I'm gonna say spinnerbait is your probably biggest percentage odds to catching a big fish. Big spinnerbait like that. I'm throwing a 7'3" Falcon, a loose reel, a 7.5 to 8, gear ratio, 17-pound test, 20-pound test on that. You're moving that bait. Don't worry about the line. You want a good heavy line so you can set the hook and get them fish in the boat. That's your spinnerbait setup. Other baits that are still working when it's windy like that. Your Alabama rig, it's a big fish bait. It'll catch them. It's going to be a little bit hard to throw in the wind. The wind will catch that bait and throw it around. It might be a little hard to throw into the wind. you know, so you'll have to have the wind at your back. But when you're fishing windy points, windy banks, the wind's going to be at your back. So you'll be able to throw it. You know, the Alabama rig, it'll catch big fish. It's just a big fish bait. So, you know, that's going to be right up there with the spinnerbait as far as catching a fish that's going to win this tournament. You know, and obviously cast checked. I'm throwing that on 50-pound braid. I'm just throwing that on the old workhorse Lew's. I call it the Orange Crush. It's just a 7-to-1 gear ratio. And this is an old Falcon Expert 7-foot rod, pretty stout rod for something like that. Same exact banks. You know, you want to throw those baits on. The stick bait's still catching a lot of numbers. But a stick bait like this here, it's going to get hung up. It always does. But your stick bait, it's been catching a lot of numbers still, but nowhere near the big fish. The stick bait's going to be hard to throw in the wind. You know, it tends to, like the Mega Bass or the RC sticks, or even the Lucky Craft, they'll throw a little better in the wind because they got that weight transfer. And they'll throw pretty good, but good heavy or hard heavy winds can make that a challenge. It'll definitely catch fish. It'll catch big fish. It'll catch these suspended fish. But we all know how a bait like this with the small treble hooks, just because you hook that fish doesn't mean you're going to get that fish in. So my point is, if you can catch them on a spinnerbait or an Alabama rig, if you get them hooked, the percentage rate of them coming in the boat or getting close enough you can net them are way higher. I'm going to say 60% better than on a stick bait. You know, stick bait will definitely call them up and get them to bite. It's just getting them in and getting them to the net. We're talking about stick bait. You know, same colors, natural colors. You know, this one here, the purple back, silver sides, little chartreuse bottom, has been working real good. This other one, this Edo Natural, has been really good. Gold, kind of a gold tint, gold top, purple bottom, has been an excellent one all spring and still is producing. But like I said, actually my last report, like I said, when you get to where you're working that stick bait or reeling it in and you start catching a lot of fish, or you're working it really fast and you're catching a lot of fish, it's time to go to spinnerbait. It tells you they're wanting to chase, they're more active, you can throw to spinnerbait. So, like I said, the stick bait will catch them. It'll definitely catch a fish that can win this, but you'll get heartbroken too with the stick bait. As this water temp warms up, we're in the mid-upper 50s. These fish are a lot more active. They'll move more. They'll come to the surface. They'll shake more compared to like when that water's down in the 40s, where you hook them. They got a sharp fight to them, and then they kind of come into you. Compared to now, these fish are a lot more active. They're a lot more apt to come up, shake, and throw a bait like this. So I'm just saying, as we get warmer, they're more active and they're more likely to throw a bait like this. You know, other moving baits, like tomorrow, your rock crawlers, these are producing really good. They're catching some big fish. This is the time of year you'll catch big fish on these type of baits. Like this is the rock crawler. This is just a natural color. You know, the red color, the rock crawler with the red on it has been really good. Red with the green back. You know, that's really good. Both of these, the natural color, and then something with the red on it. The red with the yellow kind of orange body has been really good too. These baits are more of a reaction bite, bouncing off the rocks like we've been saying the last few weeks. But they're working better now because these fish are a lot more active as this water creeps up into the 50s, upper 50s. and they're a lot more apt to chase baits. And these are the baits that are bouncing off of rocks, even around laydowns. The main thing is rocks, bigger boulders, basketball sized rocks. You just want this thing bouncing off everything you can, making as much commotion and getting a reaction bite. Same thing with spinnerbait, and the wiggle warts or the rock crawlers is, a lot of time a reaction bite will get a bite on some of these fish that maybe have been pressured from a lot of other fishermen. They maybe, for whatever reason, aren't feeding, but these baits will create a reaction bite, meaning they're not necessarily feeding, but this bait comes bouncing around next to them. They're going to grab it just out of instinct, and that might be, what it takes to get a bite. Now, your first few hours tomorrow, there's going to be some fish, feeding, and they're going to be feeding heavy for the first 3 or 4 hours. They're going to sense a lot of pressure probably tomorrow, and the bite will probably slow a little bit midday, but then towards the later days or later hours, you'll probably have another bite as that water really warms up. That wind pounds on these banks. As that water warms, there's going to be a lot more crawfish out. Things are coming alive on the lake right now. So, with that being said, these moving baits are going to be really good. I like the moving baits this time of year because you're covering a lot of water. But as things maybe warm up throughout the day, you may want to go to a bigger jig, like a 5/8 Wheezy jig. Put you a big trailer on the back, like a big brush hog, a big packer crawl, something like that. And these big 5/8 Wheezy jigs, same banks. Just throw them up there, let them go to the bottom, and just drag them along. Let them bounce off them rocks. Pop it up a little bit, let it go back to the bottom, pop it up, try to get a reaction like that, or just make as much commotion on the bottom as you can. That's where, like the Wheezy jig, it was designed to come through rocks, brush, everything. It's got that stout weed guard, big stout hook on it. That you get that stuck in them, you're going to get that fish in the boat. So, if I'm going to throw a jig, it's going to be probably a Wheezy jig, probably a 5/8 tomorrow. You're going to need a heavier jig to get down on that bottom so you keep that line fairly tight and that wind's not putting a big bow in it where you'll miss a bite. Drag that bait around where you can feel it constantly dragging the bottom. Work those bigger, maybe baseball, softball, even basketball sized rock with a pea gravel mix. Pea gravel is going to be pretty critical this next couple weeks. They like to get in and spawn around like those bigger rocks. They'll back up against some big rocks if there's pea gravel close. Maybe some laydowns, shallow docks. Lake's still 5 foot low. Lake's 655.15. I already told you that, but it's still 5 foot low. So that means there's a lot of docks that are still the front side of the docks laying on the dirt, and that the outside of the dock might be in 6 foot of water. And the big females love that shallow cover like that. They love them docks over the top of their heads. So they'll lay up underneath that foam, soaking up this heat, that oxygen, waiting for shad to move back in there. Bluegill are getting up. You're seeing a lot more bluegill. So they're going to be feeding on the bluegill, the shad, and obviously them crawfish that are starting to come out and roaming a lot more. So, spinnerbaits, if you do get up in them river arms or creeks where that water's dirty, you're going to want to throw you like a painted blades, a white, a chartreuse, maybe more chartreuse on it. Maybe go to, I don't have one here, but like maybe a big Colorado blade if you get up in that real dirty stuff, and throw it along them laydowns. Laydowns that are coming off of the bank, and they go from the bank out to say 6-8 foot. Throw that spinnerbait right up to the bank and roll it right down that laydown. Somewhere along that laydown, that fish is going to be laying. So, if you get up in the dirty water, throw that. Chatterbait. The chatterbait's a really good bait. Excellent bait this time of year. Actually, it gets a lot of reaction baits because of all the movement. This is this is just a 5/8 ounce chatterbait this is a Picasso. I like their hooks, big stout hook. It's just like the spinnerbaits, Alabama rigs, a jig. You get one big stout hook in them, your odds of getting them in the lake and the boat's gonna be a lot better. I just put a swim bait on the back. This is a Kitech swim bait, a 4-inch. A lot of your swim baits will work right now because it just gives a lot of action to it. Let's see, tomorrow. That's tomorrow when you got all this wind. If you do go on the backs, you get somewhere where the water's been warming up. Try just off of the channel banks. We're starting to get into a pea gravel little shoulder, we call it, where they're going to move back into the spawning pockets. At least this week, if we went to the banks or we went to the pockets, more on the flats, we've caught a lot of bucks, a lot of males. 14 to 17 inches. It's not what you're looking for tomorrow or Sunday. You're looking for something. The way this has been, I'm going to say 4 3/4 or better to even think about a check. It's more likely going to be 5 pounds and on up. I would not be surprised if it takes 5.5 or better to even get a check. Just the way the fishing has been, there's been a lot of fish. I'm gonna say there's gonna be more 7-pounders caught this spring big bass than any other big bass in the history. I'm gonna say there's gonna be a lot of 7-pounders caught. This weekend. It's gonna take a heavy 7 to win this thing. There's been just a lot of big fish caught this week or this spring. So just because the lake's so healthy, they're full of eggs. This is the heaviest they're going to be all year. Is this next few weeks? So that's my prediction. I'm going to go out. I'm going to say 795 wins the bass. As far as a bait, any of these baits here can catch them. I'm gonna say spinnerbait. Another bait that I would not rule out is a buzzbait, because these fish are moving shallow. They're gonna start chasing these big shad that are being pushed to the bank, and a big 3/4 ounce, something that you can throw. Like this is crockier, 3/4 ounce. That 3/4 ounce throws really easy, especially in a heavy wind. You get some of these buzz baits that are these 1/4 ounce, 3/8 or halves, and man, you try to throw them in the wind catches them, and it's more aggravating. Whereas the 3/4 ounce crockier, it's a compact bait. It's meant to be able to throw in the wind. It's meant to be able to throw a long distance. It's got a good solid hook on it. You see a trailer on it, but these are really good even when it's a really windy day. If you want to go into some of these creeks and get on the front side of these docks where the wind's really blowing, stirring up that water, heating it up, these big females will move up to the shallow side of these docks. And you can take this thing and get to the corner of the dock, throw it up to the catwalk, catwalks, and retrieve it right up against that foam where that it might only be 2 foot of water, 3 foot of water on the front side of the docks. We've caught some really big fish this time of year on a buzzbait doing that. That's probably, if I was going to throw a buzzbait, that's where I'd be throwing it, on the front side of them docks where you got about 2 foot of water. Later in the day, you get a little shade on that side. Another place would be shallow cover, shallow bushes, shallow laydowns, and work that buzzbait over the top of it a few times. These big females, when they move shallow, a lot of times they'll go to these big flats and they'll pick an isolated brush or isolated bush and they'll hang out there until they go in and spawn. The big fish, they're leery. They don't like to hang out in the open. They like to be up next to something, up close to something. You know, unless they're like I've been talking, these fish are just coming up and they're staging, and it's real windy. That wind breaks that surface, almost acts like cloud cover or almost like cover above their heads. So they'll be more apt to be just out in the open, in the middle of two docks. They'll get out on the front side of the docks, the deep water side, and they'll hang on them braces. They'll just hang up close to the dock corners. So if it's, if you're out there throwing spinnerbait, even a buzzbait, maybe a spook, and work it down the side of those docks, throw from the bank all the way out, and then the big females will lay underneath them docks. It might be, from 5 foot of water to 20 foot of water, but they'll lay under those docks and wait for something, easy prey, easy meal, and they'll come out and get it. So keep that in mind. Now Sunday, I believe it's supposed to be cloudy and rainy. The buzzbait may be the ticket when they're more likely to maybe chase it or chase a bait like that at top water if it's cloudy, a little overcast. Same thing, buzzbait, spook, any of those top waters that you can really creep along, like the 3/4 with that big blade, you can reel it really slow. You're not going to want to be burning these baits right now. And a spook's a good one because you can walk it in place and keep it in that strike zone a lot longer. That pencil popper, that gunfish, that's another good one. Makes a lot of commotion. I usually see post spawn that those are more productive than right now. The buzzbait usually seems to work a little better now, as far as top water. Other baits that will catch them. Like I said last week, the Carolina rig, catching a lot of fish on it, but catching a lot of smaller males on it right now. It doesn't mean you can't catch one on it any day. The way we've had is 80 degrees for the last 2 days after cold snaps every week. This week we are on an uphill warming trend. The wind, the moon phase, everything's setting up for the next couple of days to really be a very productive, really fun big bass bash. But like I was getting ready to say, the Carolina rig will produce 30-something big on there. This is the brush hog. This is actually the mid-sized brush hog. The big brush hog, the Swamp Bug Senior, is really good. The full-size brush hog, a Zoom lizard, a big 8-inch lizard, is really good this time of year. On a 3/4 ounce weight and drag it in that rock mix with pea gravel. Pea gravel, baseball size, is going to be your best baits to be thrown it on. Like I said, same deal. Them shoulders, what I call it, getting ready to go into them spawning pockets. There's going to be a lot of fish that have been hanging out. They're going to move in these next couple days and get real close to the spawning pockets. They're not ready to spawn. That's still a couple weeks away, at least what I'm seeing. You're seeing all the males up there. They're scouting. The females are close, but they're hanging out. Anything we've caught, any size, have been still hanging out. A couple oddball baits, I guess, I don't know if I call them oddball baits, that are producing and are starting to produce, or your glide baits, like the S-Wave, that big S-Wave. I've got a couple more custom, little smaller baits, little bluegill style. Throwing them up there and reeling them on the exact same banks can really produce some big fish right now too. I would not be afraid to throw like the 5-inch Zoom swim bait on a single head. Same place you throw a spinnerbait. You can throw them back on them flats. If you're seeing them big gizzard shad skipping, flipping, big swim bait, one big stout hook on it, and that's you throw it in around them shad, you're retrieving it. and then it's out here isolated all by itself. It's an easy target for a big bass that's looking for a big meal. So, a big swim bait, I would not be afraid to throw one of these for a big fish. You're not going to catch a lot of fish on it, but if you do catch one on it, you're going to the scales with it, and that's what you're looking for. Parallel bank or parallel bluffs, bluff walls, bluff shelves. The big fish are moving up and they're staging on some of these bluffs. Throw your spinnerbait parallel the bluff. Throw your big swim baits parallel that bluff. The wake baits. Even your rock crawlers and stuff. If you get some shelves or some of them bluff slides, we call them, where you got a long bluff and then you got those rock slides, you can throw past those rock slides, bring them crankbaits, and until it starts hitting them rocks and bouncing around them slides. That's where you catch these big fish moving up in there to feed on the crawfish that hang on them rock slides. Shad will move up there and hang on them rock slides because it's a different type of contour on a bluff. You got a long straight bluff, and you got any kind of irregular indentation, little bluff pocket, little point, rock slides. That's what you want to target when you're fishing bluffs this time of year. So, that pretty much is what we got going. Not a lot's changed from last week to this week, other than the water temp, and that water temp's going to make these fish a whole lot more active. There's a huge difference in the way these bass respond to baits and chase from the low 50s to the upper 50s. It's a night and day on how the bass will chase and attack baits, and that's where we're at right now. We're hitting the mid to upper 50s. You'll probably see some 60-degree water temps by the end of the weekend with this warm, windy weather. And when it gets that, them fish come alive and they're going to chase. They're going to chase a lot of baits, and that's really going to play into a lot of guys, fishing just covering water. And what that does is it helps you be able to speed up your movement, your retrieves, and you're covering a lot more water, and you're putting the bait in front of a lot more fish that are more active and are going to chase your bait. So, that's about all I can tell you that we've seen this last week and in the past history and what's going to go on. I will say there's been a lot of response to this bash. I was at PB2 today. I thank everybody that came by and talked to us. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking to everybody. It was a great show, but judging by the line they had, that if you were there, you seen the line, but it's going to be busy out there. So if you're going to go out tomorrow and think you're going to get your own bank and you're not going to see any boats, or you're not going to have to deal with anybody at the boat ramps or fishing a bank or fishing a point, don't go out there with that kind of attitude, because you're going to share the water tomorrow. It's just the way it is. Everybody's trying to do the exact same thing. They're coming down there and have a good time. Have a good time first. Try to catch you some fish that's going to cash some checks. And good luck on catching the big one. Everyone's coming down there for that. There's only going to be one of those. There'll be other top finishers, but there are plenty of spots to catch a fish to weigh in and catch a check. And that's saying something with this, because I don't know what the number is going to be this year, but I would not doubt if after I talk to Charlie and Randy after this tournament that they say we set a record of participants in this bash. Just from what I've seen, the buzz around the lake, the people have been down here fishing already, the boats I'm seeing coming down, the people at PB2 today. Denise worked at the tackle shop. The traffic and all the tackle shops today, it's going to be busy out there. But so be it. That's awesome. I mean, that's so neat that we can have an event like this down here at the lake, where somebody's going to walk away with $100,000 after the weekend's over. I mean, what a neat deal. What a great opportunity for anybody. I don't care if you're fishing out of a 15-foot boat or if you're fishing out of a 22-foot fully rigged boat. Your odds are equal on this to catch one fish that can cash you $100,000, or cash you some checks. I had a lot of questions. Where do you think? Where's it going to be caught at? What's going to be caught on? As far as a place, if you look back in several years, this event in the spring has been won down by Bagnell Dam. It's been won up the Big Niagara. It's been won way up at the 80-mile marker. It's been won at the mouth of the Gravois. It's been won in every area of the lake. So this particular time of the year, the biggest fish, the fish to win this can be caught anywhere on this entire lake at any time. These big fish, they do their own thing. They dance to their own beat. They're not doing what the majority of fish are doing. They're doing something different. The fish that'll win this. These 7.5 to 8 pound fish, they're different fish. They're a different breed. They're smart. They're witty. And you gotta keep a bait in front of them at all times and hope they move up there to feed and you catch them. So, man, good luck to everyone. Obviously, part of the rule is wear your life jackets. Wear them life jackets a lot. If you see somebody coming down the bank or you see somebody somewhere, just say hi to them. Ask them how they're doing. Just keep a different frame of mind out there tomorrow. You're not going to have the lake to yourself. Just know that when you're going out there, and just enjoy the weather, enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy everything about it. Enjoy times with your friends, family, whoever you're fishing with. Just enjoy it and enjoy the whole weekend. That's what it's about. Honestly, is come down here and enjoying it. I've been waiting on this boat for. I actually picked up about a week and a half ago down at the factory. Everything went really good with it. Like I said, I'm gonna do a video just on the boat because this boat deserves its own video. There's so many things on this boat that I'm anxious to use, anxious to get used to. I was with, I ran a Ranger for 22 years. And I've switched, and it took a lot for me to switch. It really did. Last year I ran three different boat brands. I test drove them. I talked to people. I talked to everybody involved with it. I've got a dealer, Sport World Boat Center down there. That since we've moved down here in 2004, I've been dealing with Gary and his boys, and they've all my boats have went through Sport World. They've rigged them all, but what's most important is after you get your boat, whether it be a week, a month, or a year after you've got your boat, you've got to have a dealer that's going to stand behind their product and come and service your boat when it needs servicing. Gary and them they've rescued us on the water. They've come to us on the lake during tournaments. They've brought us oil. They've brought us props. They've brought us parts for motors, and they've kept us on the water. And I guess what I'm getting to say is there's a lot of boats in the market right now. There's probably 3 or 4 boats that you can say that are good quality top end boats, but you got to have a dealer that's going to service your boats and stay with you after the sell and the buying of your boat. And Gary and Sport World right there by Hurricane Deck Bridge have proven that to both me and Denise for the last 18 years that they're going to be there for us. They've withstanded, ups and downs in the economy. Gary's led me in the right direction when it's come to a lot of different things. the Garmin. Gary introduced me to the Garmins. Nothing but positive to say about Garmin. Everything from just like the boats, their service, their customer service is second to none. You call them, they're going to answer the phone. They're going to walk you through any issue, any questions you have. Because of Gary, I switched to Garmin's. I switched motor brands from what I used to run, and he's always led me in the right direction. Like I said, I ran Ranger for over 20 years, and now I've switched over to Vexus, and a lot of the guys who built my last Ranger were at Ranger. They were the innovators of a lot of stuff that went on there, and they branched off, like everyone knows, and they're right there in flipping, and they started Vexus. And the number one thing from the beginning was we are going to build the top quality boat, superior boat, and we're not going to cut any corners, and we're gonna build they call it a revolution in the boating industry. And Gary said you got to get in one, you got to drive it, you got to run it, you got to look at it. I think I told you before. I went out the windiest day, a couple months ago. It's been longer than that. About 4 months ago, before I ordered it, and I went out on the roughest possible day I could. All these boats run great when it's slick waters, but I went out on the roughest day I could find, and these air ride seats. I mean, it was just smooth as could be. We're running 70 and some rough water. My rep who was at Ranger, I met him, Jason Parsons, back in 2000 at Munganass Motorsports when we all ran stuff through Munganass. I met Jason there. All my boats have been through Jason. The Ranger I ran prior to this, Jason was my rep, and he is now at Vexus, and he's my rep on this boat. Everything went smooth. So basically, most of the people I dealt with before, I'm dealing with the exact same people at Vexus. So that's my biggest reason and my biggest decision for my change to get out of where I was to where I'm at. I'm super pleased with everything, how it all went. There's a lot of things on this boat I got to learn, and I'll keep you up to date on them. But I don't know how to explain it other than the ride and the room is incredible. The amount of room in this boat and the platform is huge. There's just a lot of incredible neat things. So I'm anxious to see if it lives up to what they're supposed to be. So far, what I've seen, I'm going to say absolutely. So we'll keep you up to date to that. But man, guys, if you have any trouble this weekend while you're down here, most people know in Greenview, it's called Reliable Marine. His name's Jeff, the owner over there. If he can get you on the water or repair you with any kind of trolling motor problems, he will do it. I know he's aware of the bass. He's got the parts. He's got the knowledge to get you back on the water if you have trolling motor problems. There's several other dealers down here, some good dealers, on this west side. If Gary and his boys can get you back on the water, I promise you, he will do whatever he can to get you back on the water, whether it's this weekend for the bass or any other weekends. I seen him today. He had the parking lot was full of people coming down there with issues of you name it. And they did everything they could. They were all doing what they could to get people back on the water. He saved a lot of people's weekends today. I know on the other side of the lake, there's some dealers, and they're going to be more than happy to get you on the water if they can or keep you going. So, hopefully no one has problems, but the reality is someone's going to. So, hopefully you can get off the water and get it fixed and get back on the water. But the main thing is stay safe, guys, and just keep your bait in the water, and don't get discouraged. If you don't catch that bait in the first couple hours, it doesn't mean you ain't gonna catch them at the end of the day, because you can catch that fish the last hour of the very last day. It's been done. So I think it was done last year. You know, so you're never out of it. That's the best thing about this. You know, the way I look at it, if you can come and fish all weekend and cash a couple checks, and you end up breaking even at the end of the weekend, that's a success when you're talking fishing. It's the same thing with tournaments. If at the end of the year, if you look at your fishing account and you're even, believe me, that's a good year if you're even at the end of the year. So just look at this tournament the same way. If you can come down here, fish, have fun, and go home with a check or two, that's a great weekend. So, boy, I hope some of this has helped. I had a lot of feedback this morning at PB2. I really appreciate all the comments. I'm gonna keep doing this. I try to keep it real. I try to keep you guys up to date to what's going on. Like always, shoot me an email at jdillbass@gmail.com at any time. Look me up on Facebook, whatever. Shoot me an email, a text, and I'll help you any way I can. Whether it be if you're down here and you're having issues and you're like, where can I get this fixed? Where can I find this part? Shoot me a text. If I can help you, I'm going to help you. I'm here every day. So, other than that, man, have a good time. Be safe out there. And good luck to everyone. I can't wait to see what wins it. I can't wait to see where it was won, what it was won on. You know, I always like to see if my predictions are close. Boy, I mean, other than that, like I said, good luck to everybody. We'll keep you up to date in the future. Good luck, and we'll see you.